Good afternoon.
Good evening and good night. Wow,
Preppers,
spiky.
Yes, preppers and preparedness-minded individuals. Thank you for listening to Scott and Shane here on Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded.
Yes.
On K-Talk, 1640 amplitude modulation in Salt Lake City.
Yes.
In the valley
I'm
of the
totally
Great Salt
spiking.
Lake.
Why am I spiking?
I'm trying. I'm
there we
adjusting
go.
you down a little
That's
bit there.
perfect.
All right.
Leave me alone. Let me do my
working on
job.
it.
Let me do my job. I'm good at my job.
Nope. Well, we're here again on Friday. As you know, it is our highlight of the week to be able to share our knowledge and experience with you. And we not only enjoy this particular experience, but whenever we talk about this, it's my calling. I think Scott feels it's his calling.
Most of the time.
We're happy to be here providing this public service to you, and we hope you enjoy it as well. Otherwise, why are we doing this, right?
We are doing this to help people who hopefully want to be helped.
Exactly.
And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. And the coolest thing about it is I was actually in Georgia last week, so shout out to all the Georgia listeners. Met a wife of a listener at a convention I was at for a software company that I work for. Pretty dang awesome. Showed her the sneak peek of part of Ready Radius, the book that's coming at you live. Actually, it's a printed version. That's not live. I don't know why I said coming at you live. It's not even coming at you yet. We're in the final revision, and it should be live to be purchased digitally in the next 2 weeks.
We've been in that final revision for a number of months now.
I know. That was 6 revisions ago, and now we're in the final revision of the final revision. Yeah.
What I like about writing is that it helped me put my words into place before I actually speak them, right? So before we come and talk to you guys here live on the air, I've already put my thoughts down on paper. It makes a big difference for me to work through that and figure out exactly how I want to say it. Mm-hmm. So I think we've, and what's the word? Enumerated is the wrong word.
Expounded?
We've expounded them properly in our book so that you can
digest
exactly the way we want to say it. I mean, exactly how we want to say it. So, well, today, we always have a great
We're not
show.
alone.
We're not alone. So I'm going to bring our guest on.
It's kind of exciting.
And our guest today, and I turned him off, our guest today is Zachary Fowler. I guess you go by Fowler, is that correct?
You got to take him off hold. There we go.
There we go. Zach, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Or Zachary, or I guess we should call you Fowler.
Yeah.
I'm just messing things up this morning here, trying to push the wrong buttons.
So you're the king of Season 3 alone, or should I say the winner.
Yeah.
So glad to have you on. You were there for 87 days, am I right?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
The magic number 87.
How is the psyche of being alone for 87 days in the wilderness?
Oh, man. It takes a lot of work. You just got to keep your mind busy. I had, wrote whole stories in my head to entertain myself, drew out my whole book that I'd write someday in my head for, entertainment. And, the camera became my Wilson. I just talked to it almost nonstop,
So you spent your time in the Patagonia Andes, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your surroundings. Where were you were at? Obviously, you had to be in a place where you could fish or hunt or get food somehow. And I know this is all pre-planned. It's all staged.
They flew us in over the glaciers, up into the Andes Mountains from, down low in the valleys where there was all kinds of game. Couldn't take a step without kicking up rabbits.
Wow.
And being a slingshot was one of my 10 items.
I know you do like your slingshot.
I thought I was going to do really well,
And they
fly us up over the glaciers, and they drop us in this glacial lake, and it's desolate, It's a jungle. There's nothing there. All the animals leave the upper mountains during the winter, and it was a different game entirely. I had to completely change my strategy.
So you were there from June through August into August. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's not the winter time down there, is it?
That is the winter time.
It is the winter time.
Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Brutal. So when you say you had to kind of change your plan, change your tactic, what did you prepare yourself for? Because you had 6 months to prepare before they got down there, right? Once you got selected,
I had 4 weeks.
It's only 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah, if that.
So you gorged yourself for 4 weeks to put on as much weight as possible, correct?
No,
not really.
I was actually trying not to because I kind of hid it from them when I applied for the show that I had stomach issues and I had been gaining a lot of weight over the last couple of years after having a Lyme disease scare, and then the medicine kind of messed my stomach up. So,
Oh, man.
like, I all of a sudden really, I mean, I was ballooning up since high school, but, like, I really put on the pounds that last year or two before the show, and went out there and changed all that.
Yeah, it lost 73 pounds. Is that right?
Yeah.
That is.
How much of that have you been able to gain back?
Cleansed my stomach, everything. You know, it was a complete game changer.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, how much of that have you been able to gain back since you have been back?
I've gained about 30 pounds back and stayed right about there.
Okay.
Nice.
So I stay at a right normal number right now, kind of.
And you, I mean, before the show, you were totally off-grid homesteading, right?
Yes.
And
we
now,
lived in a yurt up here in Maine, and that was how I sold myself to the show, you know, because watching all these guys on the other shows, I know they're looking for the village people, right? You know, they want their fireman, their teacher, their, you know, their army guy. And so I sent my first message right to them, and it was actually a couple of weeks before the meetup where they take 20 people and figure out who's going to be on the show. And I was like, I'm a ginger-bearded wooden boat builder that shoots slingshots and lives in a yurt in Maine. And they're like, we'll take you.
oh my God.
Yeah, there's a little
That's
bit more
a good
to
pitch
that,
there.
but you know, but it was pretty much I had them right from that moment. So
you're obviously a very well-rounded self-marketer. You've got your YouTube channel. You were able to pitch and sell them in one line. That's one of the things that I really appreciated about you. Just watching the show, where it's nice and warm and I can always eat, but I never eat during the show. I don't know why I can't do it, but there's a psychology of just seeing you guys struggle. I'm like, my wife will be eating dinner and I'll be like, nope, I gotta wait. But just watching, you're so
many people say they felt guilty. They're like, I feel so guilty. I'm eating right now.
I could walk to my fridge and get whatever I want out of it, or run down to the
Taco Bell's around the corner,
there
whatever, you know, anything's right there, and no, I couldn't do it.
So what made you want to do this? I mean, when you, obviously it's season 3, so you probably watched the first 2 seasons, realize how miserable it is for most of these people and their trials of, you see them crying on camera and having a tough time. What made you really want to do this?
Oh, geez. You know, 'cause I was watching Naked and Afraid and EJ out there, and I was like, man, that looks like so much fun. And then you see some of these other guys, and I was like, I could do better than that. And, you know, and I kept running my mouth, of course, you know, when you're sitting there on the armchair critic at the couch. And then I was like, but I just don't want to do it naked. And then Alone came on, and Jamie and I watched the first season of that, and I was like, oh, I could do that. That would be even easier. I could do that. And she's like, I dare you.
Easy.
So I applied for the show, like I said, and next thing we know, I'm on my way out there.
Well, that's good that you have a highly supportive wife of letting you go on an adventure like that. I wouldn't be allowed to go now. I've got a brand new baby. Well, she's 10 months old, but, you know, not too far different from the scenario you were in, but, well, except for the fact that I have a house, not a yurt, and I'm on the grid, not off-grid, and I'm not as fun.
She wanted a new home. She had motivation.
Now, I started to watch your video of your wife's experience of the 87 days, you know, in the yurt alone with your 2 kids. I've started to watch that one. I'm not through it yet, but when you're talking about your wife saying, "Okay, yeah, I dare you to do this," I mean, did she know what she was getting herself into? Did she really realize? Because I know you were looking for some help and didn't.
No idea. Help. No, she didn't.
But was it worth it? Was it?
Yeah. I mean, I had a blast. You know, we got a new home, and you know, it's awesome.
That's incredible. So you bought this home. It looked like it was kind of a fixer-upper, but in really good condition for what needs to be fixed. I mean, it doesn't look like it needs a whole lot from the videos online that you posted, but did she even know that it was coming, or was it a complete surprise to your wife?
When she came down, she thought they flew her down, and they had flown a couple other people down, knowing that it was close to the end.
Okay.
And so she had no idea until the day before, you know, when they finally brought her from the airport to there to, you know, a lodge where they would bring me to later. That they told her that tomorrow morning you're going to go out to see him. He won. And she had seen the most she saw is an ambulance going away, which turns out had Carly in it.
Oh,
and
that's
so
heartbreaking.
she didn't know anything. She was like wondering if that was me, and she should have chased it, and just kind of like traumatized. And they told her, and she said she might have like cried for like a couple of hours because it was just too much. You know.
So the individual who left before you, how many more days did you stay out beyond this other individual?
No, just one.
Just one day.
Because they ended up going out and pulling her because their BMI was below 16. Two people during my season got pulled because their BMIs were so low.
Yeah.
That's one thing
they had to make a decision.
I can't imagine is, okay, how do you put yourself through that much pressure and stress and essentially starvation and not pick up that phone and say, come, satellite phone and come get me?
Well, a lot of people do.
Yeah, I know they do.
Well, they were right at that point where, when you're in that state, you don't feel like you're coming apart, and their BMIs were, 16. I mean, there's been other people that survive day to day at a BMI of 16, but they're also eating daily, So at that point, your fat that insulates your organs is kind of like gone, and you're at risk of organ failure, and especially under that kind of stress and surviving during the winter. And so it's like that's where they decided, I guess, the cutoff was, and they all felt like I could keep going. None of them were, neither Dave nor Carly were like, and I wouldn't doubt that they wouldn't keep going. They just don't have any give up in them like me. So
yeah, But
No.
then could very well gotten themselves into an even worse situation very quickly. So
right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the fact that they send the medical team out there to make sure you guys are okay, ish. But it just watching her have to go home, it was so heart-wrenching for me as a viewer to watch her, all of her dreams and hopes. I mean, because she was doing well, you were doing well. I mean, it was, and she had no idea how close it was at that point. Neither did you. And so all of a sudden, next day, there's your wife. And what was the first thing that went through your head when you saw your wife?
Well, before she even showed up, they had grilled me for like 20 minutes, and they said they're doing a second medical check and just to make sure about stuff. And they had these doer faces on, and like and I heard a second motorboat, and so I was like, that's more than just the one boat coming for a medical check. That's got to be, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, they got one boat to take me away and another boat to film it happening. I'm calculating all this. Their faces are sad. I'm like, I'm done. That's it. They're pulling me, I don't know how many people are left. I'm probably going to be pulled, and it's over, and I'm like ready to like pull up my shirt and be like, look, I still have body fat on me. I'm not even ribbed yet. Like I still have, unless I suck them, you can't see my ribs, just easily. So I was like ready to protest, and then like, well, maybe I won't protest, and all this is like going through my mind at 100 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden she just sneaks up behind me. They got me bawling away. Like my last thing I said as she was walking up was like, I'll never give up. I'll never give up for my family's sake as long as I still have strength in me. And then she grabs me from behind.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's one of those emotional, like true emotional TV moments where, as an audience, if you're not engaged in that,
if you're not crying,
don't feel it, what you're dead inside type of moments. Like, awesome. We're cutting to a break. We're gonna be right back with Fowler, the Alone Season 3 winner. We're going to talk more off-grid when we get back.
Absolutely perfect. Well, thank you for taking that break away from us to listen to our sponsors. We're very grateful for them. And we are talking live with Fowler, Zachary Fowler, the winner of Season 3 Alone. You still there, Fowler?
Yep.
All right, awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's give you a chance real quick. Tell us where our fans can follow you, where the listeners can follow you. I know you've got your YouTube channel. Give us a rundown of where they can follow you and where they can engage with you.
Yeah, it's Fowler's Maker of Mischief on YouTube. But if you type in Fowler Alone or Fowler anything, pretty much Fowler Slingshot, it's like any of that, it comes right up. I've been doing what I call a reenactment of my time out on Alone called 87 Days, the YouTube series, which has been like I'm rebuilding all the stuff that I did on Alone in greater detail, so you can see the Duck Hunter 3000, how I fished out there, all that stuff, as well as my new ideas of what I will do next time when I have to go back and face Alan and Dave, And then I also do other. We vlogged about what it was like to win $500,000, buying buying the mansion, and of course anything feels like a mansion compared to the yurt. But
I was going to say, I'm like,
and then
it's not that big a house, but yeah, it is. It does
No.
everything compared to a yurt is a mansion.
Well, let's look
It's
back
huge.
a little bit. You look back to, and I like to look to the past, right? I mean, that's kind of what I do. Is look how like my grandparents, how they lived. Their house was 20 by 20. I mean, 25. I mean, really small, and they still had 6, 7 kids in there. And so I'm sure my house, by these standards, is a mansion compared to what my mom grew up in.
Zach, your house is pretty big though. Like it's not 20 by 20. It's
sprawling.
Well, no, that's what I'm
It does
saying.
Sprawl.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what have you got now? Like 4,800 square feet?
We're realtors. So this is
Yeah.
stuff we talk about.
Something about that. Yeah.
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 And it's kind of a fixer-upper in some ways, right?
Oh, it's a major fixer-upper. It's like, you seen the movie Money Pit?
There we go.
I'm just
Yes,
happy
good
I don't fall through the floor with a rug underneath the rugs there.
Well, hey, I wanted
no,
to
it's
get
not
into.
that bad, but it's a plenty of work,
Yeah,
Awesome.
no, that's the way I like it. I know, Scott, you like it this way too, because yours is a fixer-upper too.
Well, mine's I'm not falling through the floors, but there's some walls that need to be fixed because you could fall right through them if you lean on them. But let's
my problem's insulation. You know, it's like the walls all need to be taken off from the outside and re-insulated.
So it's not as
Two
warm as
wood
a yurt.
stoves cranking in here sometimes. So
Oh man.
So yeah, let's step back to obviously you were in a yurt before this, living off grid. What inspired you? What made you take that leap and step out of? I assume obviously you probably grew up in a normal, regular home, and then you and your wife got married. Tell us your story a little bit of how that worked, and then how you ended up living off grid in a yurt.
I moved up here to build boats about when I was 21, so whatever that is, 38 now, and built boats until I went on a loan, met my wife 5 years ago on Craigslist, said woodsy woman wanted. I was living in the camper at the time, and she and I decided to move in together, and we put bought a 12-foot yurt, put it up at the land, spent the summer in it, and she was almost like, that's enough, I had enough, I'm going home. And then she's like, I can't, and she stayed. And we added the camper to the front of it, so we had more space for during the winter time. So we had the kitchen and the camper and the corridor connecting the two. And I mean, I can't. It's amazing that we did it. I mean, it was comfy and homey at the time, but now that I've lived in a regular home, it feels like a junk pile up there now. But it was home to us. It was cozy. We had everything we needed. We had to drag everything out there by sled, during the winter time without being able to drive up. So it was almost a mile walk up there. Me dragging a sled with like 2 kids and groceries, or 1 kid at first, and then 2. So but it was fun. We had the outdoors, the gardens. We ended up getting goats and butchering our own animals and stuff, and it just had a blast.
Now, doing all of that yourself, I mean, comparing it to a normal person's life, right? A 9-to-5 guy with a mortgage
let's say the modern
car,
person.
like just the standard U.S. Everybody's in debt to their eyeballs, and
There you go.
and not living a free life like what you guys experienced. How would you describe the difference?
I almost think that there's more to do having a home than there was before. I mean, because like we just had such a minimal life. We had like 1 pan and 1 pot, and so we, roast a turkey or roast a chicken in the pot on the wood stove, and we'd have food for days. You'd turn it from a roast chicken to roast chicken soup to some other more chicken soup of a different type to a curried chicken to and then in the end it went to a curried rice chicken, and then we'd start all over again. And it's like, in home you got all these pans and dishes and things, and it's like everything you collect more stuff, and the more stuff you own, the more it owns you.
Absolutely.
It's like this house has so much more repairs. Like the most I ever had to worry about up at the yurt is like once a year we'd replace the skylight plastic that covered it.
So do you find that because in a kind of an evolution of prepping, this is the way I see it, is we all start to become aware of our surroundings and realize, oh, I need to take care of myself. Nobody else is responsible for me. That's kind of part of growing up, right? Becoming an adult is starting to take care of yourself, but to what extent? And then we get in debt, we get into the system, and then we realize this sucks, and I want to get out of the system, and then we start to move toward homesteading. I mean, that's where I'm leaning towards. That's where I'm moving toward, is getting off grid, making life more simple, but still using that technology to make life a little more accommodating, a little more convenient. Do you see yourself kind of? It seems like in this step, in this instance, you've come back from that. You've gone backwards. Do you feel that way? Or
yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why I've been making some changes, trying to change that up too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to start doing like a little bit more of that in a series on YouTube, like about preparing. Joining up with the YouTube channel and some Thrive Life and like freeze-dried food and like buying some to eat and some to store. Try to be more prepared, because before we were far more prepared because we had the goats. So when in the fall came, we butcher and we can goat meat and tomatoes, and we had 3 meals a week for an entire year after the garden and all that stuff was done. We had 3 meals a week that we would eat that didn't require buying groceries.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it was like we were, I don't know what percentage that was, but it was pretty a high percentage compared to right now where I go to the grocery store every day because it's a couple feet down the road with my skateboard and buy what I need for the day or 2 days, I
haven't ridden a skateboard since I was probably, 21 or something like that.
That's pretty awesome.
That was the one thing I actually just purchased for myself with the winnings. The rest of it I put all into camera equipment and the business. I was like, well, I want frivolous thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I need to get
it's funny because, we always talk about, if I could only do more off-grid living, and I could, and in some ways it's kind of a pipe dream for us because without doing it full-time and actually seeing what it's like, you really don't know until you're doing it yourself, is what the message I get from everyone that's done it. What would be your advice to people that are wanting to do off-grid living completely, maybe go completely off-grid? What would be your advice to help them better prepare for that kind of a change?
Oof. We were off-grid, but we were still very well, like we tell everybody, we had a TV on every wall because we lived in around here. So there's only one wall. Yeah. So it's like awesome. we weren't super isolated. Some people send me messages all the time like, oh, you didn't really live off-grid because you have phones and the internet. I mean, we had internet through our phones, but so we weren't isolated that way, and we were able to watch movies, and so we were comfortable. And I think that's the most important thing, not trying to step out into the off-grid life too heavily and putting yourself in a situation where you're not comfortable. Because if you go and set up a wall tent, but you don't do enough to it to make it so it's completely homey before you go and start living like that, and you're experiencing the heavy moisture of the moist days outdoors, it won't be a sanctuary. So if you're going to do off-grid, I think you need to make sure whatever home that you're building or thing that you're getting into, that it's a secure sanctuary for you to have a respite from all the hard work. Because it is 24/7 hard work, but at the same time, it's so rewarding that it doesn't feel like you're working as hard as you are when you live in a regular home, Yeah,
I think we spend most of our time. Yeah, I think I spend most of my time working, but not at the business of life, if that makes sense. I spend my time trying to pay the bills, trying to get my head above water, and it's all stressful. It's not. I know I'm not learning essential skills, I guess you could say, right? If I'm coming across, if you understand me, Scott,
I feel like the typical American lifestyle is you're running, but you're not putting substantial experiences back into your reserve, right? Whereas if you're growing a garden, you're putting significant reserves back into yourself. Because you're experiencing
you're making food and you're learning something new. Like you can't help but learn something new every time you go out to feed the goat. Like, oh, I didn't know that they didn't prefer that branch, or hey, that works pretty good. All those cuttings I cut down now go to the goats, and so I use those, and then I use the ones that they nibble off to turn into furniture. Well, it's like you just have so much fun.
I think we look back, even hundreds of years, the business of life was living, was trying to stay alive, really. was surviving.
Well, everyone ate to live instead of live to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a big difference with that. And we've come to, we know we're obviously a consumer society. All we do is that's what keeps the economy going, is consumption, is buying. And, if you ask me, the word economy shouldn't even exist. But I think one thing like I say all the time is, to prepare for the future, we need to look to the past. And that means living a more simple lifestyle, more self-sufficient lifestyle, with fewer things, and really living your business is life, not just your business being
all consuming.
Your 24 your 9 to 5 job or yeah.
Well, I like the philosophy of you're living your life, and everything you do is supporting the experience of that life, as opposed to everything we're doing is to support our job, so that we can have
so you can retire
life
when I'm 65.
Well, it's the difference between having a life and living a life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Many of us get stuck in I work so hard so that I can have a life, as opposed to I'm working to live my life. My job is part of who I am and what I do, as opposed to being defined just by the job. When I was single and doing my thing, it was great, but it sucked because I didn't have that connection. Right, there was that part of that whole fulfillment of having my wife. There was an emptiness in me. Right, then I got married, and that filled, and then my responsibilities blossomed and grew from that. But the quality of my life went up, and again, when I had my little girl, but also things like being able to work on my own car and fix things. That has improved my quality of life because I have a greater perception of self, a stronger foundation of things that I can do and accomplish. And the other nice thing is it saves money. The more I can figure out and do on my own, as long as I'm not breaking things in the process, I can typically save money and live a more frugal life and a more fulfilled life because I'm engaged in something. I'm doing and learning something. Just like you said, you have more fun when you're learning. When you've learned what your goats like to eat versus they don't like to eat, and how you can grow your garden better, or what grows in different types of soil. I mean, all of those things are things you can't lose because it's part of you now. You know it, and it gives you confidence in everything else you do because you figured out something else that's difficult out. And I think that's what we miss a lot in the mainstream lifestyle in America. And I think that's why there's so many people that love shows like Alone. And Naked and Afraid, and where and the Alaskan Bush People, and all the shows where it's getting kind of gritty back to how life used to be, or life in harmony with the earth. I think we've missed that.
I know
society.
My dad, ever since we were, he's like, I just wish I could get away and put the loincloth on and run around in the woods. It's like. Yeah. Everybody dreams that it was better days. It was, and the getting back to the land.
Yeah, but I think the caveat there is that it's for a limited time or a limited experience in that, right? You wouldn't want to stay down there in Patagonia the rest of your life, right? I mean,
no.
But
the strategy that we're talking here is what also won me the show because everybody else went out there. I feel like everybody else went out there to survive. And my strategy from the beginning was to go out there and homestead. So all my studying of homesteading at home was from books that I picked up at garage sales, and I would study traps to catch the woodchuck that was getting into my garden so that I could use primitive traps for it. And then when I went out there, I did the same thing. I set up a home. I built a house. I made it comfortable. I made it so that it was, like I was saying, I made it, comfortable.
It was a refuge.
I made a fireplace inside. I figured out ways to make myself cozy, be able to keep my clothes dry, and to block out the atmospheres. It was that secure that if it was damp out for days, it felt dry and cozy inside.
I think that's one of the things that, as we talk about preparedness and survival of the big things that everyone's worried about, the SHTF scenarios, people don't really think about, okay, how do I create a quality of life? And thinking of that first is what won you that year. Thinking of how do I make this a quality life down here, as opposed to how do I just survive the next 87 days. It was how do I live here. You made it a permanent experience and a permanent mindset to make life easier and more comfortable and more enjoyable, I still am amazed that you did it because, man, being alone that long would, even with or without a Wilson, I don't. There's no way. I just don't think. Maybe I've just lacked the confidence in myself to do it. But I just psychologically, I'm like, man, that would just suck.
Yeah, I know psychologically we've talked with Alan Kay, a bunch, and he's a really funny guy, and I know part of his strategy to survive was his humor and his, he likes to sing and he likes to do those kinds of things. Yeah. What kind of things did you do that helped you be more resilient, help you keep your head in the game? And we got break here in a few seconds, so maybe we'll catch this on the other side. But yeah, if you go ahead and I guess answer whatever you think there.
A lot. I mean, it was keeping my hands busy first off, and I was like, it was like always trying to make something and being creative. At night when I'd lie down, I'd think about all of the things that went wrong that day or needed to be fixed, and then try to think of solutions.
Kind of the same thing we do every day right now, right? Your brain works on things overnight. But we got to go to break here, so thanks for being with us, Fowler. And we've got one more segment, and we're going to continue this conversation. And thanks, everybody, for listening to Prepper Talk Radio here on K-Talk AM 1640. And please join us again right after this break. All right, let's go ahead and get right back into this. Take advantage of our time with Zachary Fowler, winner of Season 3 Alone, who spent 87 days in the Andes Mountains of Patagonia. As a young teenager, I guess you could say, I was into climbing and mountaineering, and I always saw Patagonia and was just in complete awe of the terrain. How did you feel when you were down there, Zachary?
Oh, it was gorgeous. Yeah. It was such a wild place because every hill you go over is different, and like going with that valley, and it was full of birds the size of chickens. I thought I'd be eating great with my Slingshot. Everybody thought I would. And then we get up there and there's like nothing. It went from birds the size of chickens to that one that I got on the show that were sparrows. That had like 20 calories maybe, and so it was pretty wild. But the trout were delicious. Yeah. 63 trout and 2 birds. And there were these pink meated trout that were like this that salmon that you buy at the store, and I'd smoke them no matter how hungry I was. I'd smoke it for 4 to 6 hours. And just awesome. Until the meat just fell off the bone, and it was so good.
That is awesome.
Well, we've got a caller. Let's see if we can bring a caller on the line, see if they got a question for you.
Segment. Hello, you're live here on Prepper Talk Radio. Oh, and sorry, we're a little slow. We'll try better next time. But yeah, if you want to ask a question to Fowler here, call us in at 801-254-1640, and we'll try and take some calls this segment where we've missed some in the past, so apologize. So, I think what we wanted to try and get into this segment is
well, I want to talk more about the Slingshot.
Go for it. Yeah. I wanted to get into the everyday, everyman's survival, because most of us have no desire to go spend 87 days, in a survival situation.
Okay.
But obviously, everything you've learned applies to the regular guy, us every day here in the city.
Yeah, we can use and adapt everything you've learned. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I learned everything first at home and then took it out there, right? And so watching all these survival shows, people bring bows and people bring all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? I want a shovel and a slingshot, and then all my other items just kind of fell into line as a little bit more like everybody else's after that.
So what else did you bring?
Except for I didn't choose rations, and everybody else chose 1 ration, sometimes 2, and I did not pick a ration because I wanted my tool. My multi-tool. That was the other weird thing that people... Like, why wouldn't you take a bush knife with a fixed blade? Because I'm a maker, and I modified it to be a spoon gouge and multiple other things. And so I needed my tool to be able to operate and to be able to have the file to sharpen my shovel, which is the cold steel shovel that we sell on my website. And it's autographed, too.
And I think that probably turned out.
So if anyone wants to buy...
plug, hashtag.
Yeah, if anybody wants to buy one of the Fowler shovels, it's a cold steel shovel, go to... What's your website?
FowlersMakeryandMischief.com.
There you go.
Fowler's Makery and Mischief. Why that name?
Because if you look at my YouTube channel, it's like it's the 2 things I was telling you about before. It's the vlog about winning the money. It's also the 87-day series about survival. But then the rest of the week is usually me shooting stuff with slingshots, whether it's shooting stuff out of the air
in Mischief, just doing Mischief,
or I do
stuff.
Yeah, I did a McFowler video where I turn into MacGyver and I unlock the car with a Swiss Army knife by carving a stick and unlocking the car.
Nice.
And they reached out to me and said they wanted to work together after seeing that. And so I'm probably going to continue that series, which is just kind of silly, but like super awesome hacks that I do in it.
Yeah, that's cool.
You also did a commercial series for Dodge, if I remember right.
Yeah. I did a Dodge ad, and that was fun. And
did they give you the Dodge? I know that was one of the big questions.
I knew you were going to say that. I was going to say they didn't give me the truck.
Oh, those jerks.
So it'll win a couple more shows before that. And I missed out a lot of opportunities after the show because, like Alan and those guys got to go on like today's show, but the Trump had just won. So he trumped my win.
All the TV
and like
time,
Jimmy Fallon and all the people that they reached out to were like, they didn't even bother replying.
Oh.
So now my new goal is I've been trying to beat the Guinness World Record with a slingshot. How many cans you can knock down in a minute at 33 feet. It's 25. I'm up to like 18 on a good day.
Wow.
And so I'm going to try and go on Jimmy Fallon and break the Guinness World Record in another year or two.
At 33 feet, 25.
Yeah. Yeah, so I got to get 26. Or to cans.
Right.
In a minute.
In 1 minute.
In 1 minute.
Wow,
yep.
that sounds pretty hard to me.
I can fire off over 30 shots in a minute with my slingshot, but I can't hit more than like 5 on that kind of speed. So
wow, that's incredible.
Bring the two things together. Yep.
So let's talk about your
light
slingshot.
a match with a slingshot at 33 feet.
Oh, yeah, I've seen your video. Yeah, I saw you do that. So let's talk about your slingshot. Why was that one of the items you chose as part of your kit?
Oh, just because everybody picks everything so much bigger, and I just figured that lots of little games would add to the whole thing. And from the moment I decided that I started practicing the slingshot 2 years ago, just before I went on alone, and I started getting pretty decent at it, and I was like, you know what? I love this. This is so much more fun than a bow. Bows are heavy. They take lots of work. I spend hours, and I spend weeks and weeks making this bow, and then I go and weeks making arrows, and then I go and shoot them and break 3 in the first day. It's like it's so stressful, like especially when you put that much time into something, and then all I buy is steel ammo off Amazon. I make a cool slingshot, and I'm pelting away at stuff. I can shoot stuff out in the woods. I can shoot, I walk around, and, that leaf offend me, or that pine cone. Boom, knock it off of there, and just have fun. Don't have to worry about it.
So now did you say you made your own slingshot?
Yeah, the slingshot I took out on loan I made. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you sell slingshots on the website?
I do. I haven't gotten a custom one made right now yet, but I'm still working on designs and stuff before I settle on one. Because the more I learn, the more, there's already a million designs out there and a million companies. So I sell simple shot slingshots, which are pretty awesome. And,
I've had a slingshot in my bag, my go bag, for a couple of years now. So, but I need to spend more time working on it. Yeah, very quiet.
So I've got a hybrid slingshot in my bag.
A wrist rocket.
It's a wrist rocket that I've actually adapted to be able to shoot arrows.
Yes.
So I've modified it a little bit, and that little modification pops in and out, and so I can use it when I want to, and you take it out of the way when I don't want to use it.
And there are ones you can buy commercially.
And there's ones you can buy commercially, but I rigged up my own. But it is a lot more fun.
That's what I plan on taking on All-Stars, actually. That's the only thing I'm going to change in my gear outside of some clothing hacks that I will change in my 10 items is I'd like to take a sling bow of my own design, because that way I could have 2 fishing arrows, 2 hunting arrows, and 2 practice arrows, as well as be able to shoot rocks at smaller game as well.
Well, what do you think about the old traditional slings? Not a slingshot, but a sling.
David and Goliath.
I'm about to release a video tomorrow morning called Sling versus Slingshot, which is pretty cool. And we're starting a whole new series with the YouTube called basically Slingshot versus. So I'm going to try and build a slingshot each time to compete against these different things, like Slingshot versus Daisy Red Ryder BB gun is going to be the next one, and that Slingshot versus the bow and all that stuff.
Cool.
So we compare speed, power, and accuracy, and the sling is great. My buddy Jason's been trying to get me to do it, but I just love shooting my slingshot too much to put it down for too long. And he's winging these big rocks away, and with my best slingshot that I could make for the situation, I can only shoot rocks that are half the size, and he's, if that, maybe even a quarter of the size. I'm far more accurate than him, but man, if you get hit with one of those, it's a game ender. I might just tick off somebody if I whack them with it.
Yeah, it's like the David and Goliath.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
man.
exactly. That's what we talked about in the video.
All right. What else would did you have in your kit when you in Patagonia? I know you said you had shovel, you had your
Multi-tool,
slingshot, you had
slingshot.
multi-tool. Did you carry what knife did you have with you? I assume you had a knife.
It was a Swiss Army multi-tool.
Oh, it's just multi-tool.
I had
Okay.
a big felling axe, a big crosscut saw,
Okay.
a ferro rod, sleeping bag, pot with a pan lid, the paracord, and fishing line and hooks. I had 24 hooks. You're allowed 25. One of mine was actually a sewing needle bent because that was another item. If you wanted to, but they let me take that as an acceptable hack.
Wow.
And I actually used that to sew up 3 or 4 different things. The crotch ripped out of my pants at one point and stuff. So I was able to sew all my stuff up all the time.
Oh, nice. So you mentioned the Swiss Army Victorinox Swiss tool. The larger Swiss tool, is that the one you have?
The Spirit.
The Spirit. Okay, that's the one I have on me at this very moment. That's when
Yeah,
it's right here. Scott's asking me
it's
for
a
it.
great tool. I don't like to carry it at home because I got too much stuff on my belt already. But
Yeah. Well, I've seen your
at
Wazoo.
home I carry just a regular Swiss Army knife and then just a cold steel folder, the Ultimate Hunter.
Okay, so that's a pretty big knife. Isn't like a 4-inch blade.
Yeah, the Ultimate Hunter. Yeah, big one.
All right, let's see. Now we were getting back into how can the average person apply what you learned in their everyday carry situation or everyday preparedness scenario. I know, like you were saying, that I had to learn this first, and then I took it out in the field, and then obviously back into civilization once again. I am constantly modifying what I carry as my EDC stuff, and most of it.
You want to see a good EDC? Check out my EDC Mile High Pocket Dump on a Plane.
I watched that last night.
I just posted the video a couple of days ago, and some people are outraged and like. It's ridiculous. It's just a survival kit if I ended up castaway.
Yep.
But there's so much stuff you can carry in your person that takes up almost zero space.
Yeah, absolutely.
The belts we've been selling on the website are so cool. You can just fill them full of stuff. Survival kit.
The Wazoo belts, yeah.
Yeah, they make the neatest things. It's so much fun.
And I liked the cap you have, the hat that you had concealed items within the cap.
Oh, yeah, the hat which has like a fire starter as well as pockets for your money and everything. Yeah, it's amazing here, but knowledge is the most important thing, right? It's like it doesn't do you any good to have all that stuff, and you can learn stuff by reading books, but you don't really know it until you play around with it. You can, like, for instance, I went out there on the show and I learned all kinds of stuff from books, and I didn't try it all, but I tried enough and I had skills. But I went out there and I didn't ever use a ferro rod before. I had just watched people use it, and I saw that it was so easy that, like, I figured, hey, even a caveman can do it. And I never played around with tinder and stuff because I always used a flint and steel with a char cloth, and it was really easy to use the stuff that I used in Maine all the time to start a fire. And so I get out there and I go to start a fire with my ferro rod, and I had never scraped it even once. And I couldn't get a fire going that first day. It was just the stuff was too wet. I wasn't throwing enough spark on it for it being that wet. And I went to bed discouraged that first day because I knew it, but I didn't know it, And so that's a big thing, It's like really not just assuming that you can know something, but learning it by doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't actually know how to do it unless you've been very successful at it. And like the professionals say, you practice something until you can no longer do it wrong, and not until you get it right, but until you can't do it wrong. If I'm saying that correctly.
Yep. It's funny because one of our good buddies does Stan Pruitt. He runs Urban Survivors, and they do combat training, close quarters combat. And he's like, he'll teach you till you get it, and then he's like, great, now go do it 600 more times.
6,000 more times.
Wait.
Okay.
You go 600 more times, and then you'll know what it is. But if you don't want to have to think about it, you need to do it 6,000 more times. And then it's just
muscle memory.
Memory at that point, because you don't want it to just be instinct. You want it to be muscle memory so that you don't have to rely on those instincts. And it's just that repetition over and over and over again. That's a lot of times lighting a fire. But how valuable would that be?
With all the different methods, like you say, with flint and steel, or with your ferro rod, or whatever the method may be.
Definitely take
Zeus lighter now. Or your Zeus lighter, yeah. If you can recharge it out there in Patagonia, take some solar panels.
Hey, I only needed it once.
Right.
So when you were living off grid, what I picture off grid is not plugged in, right? So did you have solar? I mean, what did you use for light and electricity?
We had a solar panel that gave us a bit of power in the evening, but we also had a small little Kohler generator that gave us like TV power. But then when that was off, we'd have lights with the solar and a fan and be able to charge our phones and stuff through the evening and things. So we didn't have to we'd have the generator on during the wintertime for like 4 hours before bedtime kind of thing.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's pretty
the whole thing
simple.
up.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that people think that maybe getting prepared to live off grid can be very complicated, but it can be very simple. And there's our music.
Oh yeah, because that generator, it was like we spent like $5 a week, on a really. But I mean, of course, we spend like $1,000 on the generator to start with. But it's very easy to hook something like that up and and run all kinds of stuff off of it.
Yeah. Well, Fowler, we sure appreciate you coming on the show with us. It's been a lot of fun. And to say once again where everybody else can find you.
Yeah, check me out at Fowler's Makery and Mischief on YouTube and Fowler'sMakeryandMischief.com. I'm making new videos every week about my adventures and everything I'm up to, and follow me on the website, and you'll be able to see where I might be at next, and we could meet and greet.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us, and here's your commercials. See you guys next week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Every dollar
Bye.
is a free budget app that is helping